Detroit at Chicago. It feels like this Chicago offense is starting to potentially find its feet. And do you think that could lead to Justin Fields potentially being a league winner down the stretch?
I think definitely what we've seen from Justin Fields has been encouraging. There was a report today from one of the Bears beat reporters that he's convinced that everything suggesting that they will be taking a quarterback in this year's draft, which makes sense from a team building perspective. I think what we've seen from Justin Fields has been encouraging, but I don't think you could really go, okay, well, in a year's time, are we going to be ready to pay him? And then you can end up in a situation like the Giants with Daniel Jones, where you kind of are halfway in and halfway out, and then it doesn't do you any good whatsoever. So I would be completely supportive of them taking a quarterback for that reason. But Justin Fields has shown enough that he should be starting in the NFL next year, regardless. When this game was last played, it finished in week 12, 31-26 to the Lions. That day, Justin Fields had an absurd 18 rush attempts for 104 rushing yards. There are running backs in this league who aren't getting that kind of volume. And the Lions, they've struggled with dual threats. They allowed 45 yards to Mahomes, 39 to Love, who aren't even the most dual threaty of dual threats. And they gave up 36 and a touchdown to Lamar. So it's an area where I would expect the Bears to really just focus on. Why would we go away from it? DJ Moore, he's had 20.9 PPR points in games with Justin Fields, 10.3 without. And it really seems like their connection is worth playing. I think playing Fields, DJ Moore stacks this week is going to be very productive, and I think it'd be pretty popular. What's kind of interesting to me on the Bears side of things is the Roschon Johnson situation. Before their bye week, he played a season high 74% of snaps. He had 15 touches against the Vikings. And Josh Norris on Underdog brought up this week that he was like, he's not quite ready to crown Roschon Johnson the starter, because we know Vikings blitz at one of the highest rates in the league, and we know Roschon Johnson is elite, well, not elite, but very, very good at pass protection. And did they just play Roschon Johnson knowing that the blitzes were going to keep coming all night? So that's really worth paying attention to. I think Donta Foreman hasn't practiced this week, so if he misses, it's a little easier to take a shot on Khalil Herbert if you have to. And if you have to start Roschon Johnson in a bind, perhaps you can. But yeah, I mean, this offense, outside of DJ Moore, there's nobody who I really want to play. But on the other side, it was kind of good to see Jared Goff play a cleaner game last week against Saints. You know, he had 0 turnover-worthy plays or fumbles after having like 6 turnover-worthy plays the previous 2 games and 3 fumbles. Last time these two teams met, amon-ra St. Brown had 21 points. Chicago, they've allowed the 8th most fantasy points to slot wide receivers this year. So you can plug amon-ra back in. I know he's had a couple of games which have been a little bit disappointing. And then Sam Laporta, I mean, Titan 3, Titan 1 last 2 weeks. He's tied with Mark Andrews, leading the position in touchdowns. So, yeah, Jameson Williams, though, I think we're at a point where people are starting to want to play Jameson Williams, because you see that touchdown he had last week where he looked so fast. But he's still never had a game where he's had more than 2 touches. Even with the touchdowns, like the production, it's kind of like, you know, if you're in deep leagues, some of the leagues we play in, Rich, where you might be starting 5 wide receivers, that's where you can start in. But if you're playing in a traditional league where you've got 3 wide receivers and a flex, I'm still not even sure it's enough production to get that, even when he's scoring touchdowns.
I think saying 5 wide receivers, I think I'd need to go deeper. I think I'd need to get to kind of wide receiver 70 range before I'm even considering starting him. I just think the volume's not there, and yeah, you're hoping on a touchdown, and that always scares me. I have to say, this matchup, I know it's only a 40 over under, but with the way that the Lions defense is playing at the moment, they've been absolutely abysmal. It's basically Hutchinson and nothing else. And hopefully Chicago are smart enough, like the other teams have done over the last 3 weeks, you can basically double Hutchinson and know that you've got no other trouble across the board. The secondary's in tatters. Yes, they've had lots of injuries, but I think that this is basically a Justin Fields playing for his future as a Chicago Bear. If he can't put up decent passing numbers against this woeful Detroit secondary, I think that's basically spells the end of his time as a starting quarterback for the Bears. So Yeah, really, really intrigued this matchup. And I think it has the potential to be one of those kind of slate breaking weeks where it's got an over under of 40. Not many people are going to identify it as a really attractive matchup, but actually it could score a hell of a lot of points and go well over that over under.
Well, look at the last time they played in week 12, 2 weeks ago. The Bears have been on a bye since then. 3 weeks ago, or whatever. Like 57 points. There isn't that much that's changed with these teams since then. That is really going to, obviously the weather might have more of an effect on things, but yes, it's outside. Last time it was in the dome. Jared Goff historically plays better in the dome or at home. So perhaps that hampers things slightly. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's plenty of upside in this one. It's a game I'll be talking about in the DFS clinic video for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Damien's in the chat asking, are we downgrading Devonta Smith? We've got it back. And would you have any concerns about playing Goddard? Would you go to Komet or someone like that instead?
Goddard wasn't getting it done at times this season, even before the injury. Like, he was a very frustrating player to own in fantasy. I had him in my home league, and there were so many weeks where it felt like he was harming me more than anything else. He started the season with tight end 50, tight end 19, 13, 28, before popping up for a tight end 2 finish in week 5, and then immediately slipped back to 14, 5, 18, 19. So, if we were talking about somebody like Chigozie Okonkwo and saying, okay, well, he's only had 2 top 12 finishes all season, can you start him? The answer would be no. And now we're going to talk about a really difficult matchup. They're playing against the Cowboys the Cowboys defense is elite. They allow the second fewest, they allow the 21st fewest fantasy points to the tight end position. They rank 23rd against position in DVOA. So I don't think I can see Dallas Goedert as a starter until I see something from him. I think it's tricky to leave somebody that you invest that much draft capital on your bench. And yeah, it's definitely a slight downgrade to Dallas Goedert, though, because to Devonta Smith, because in games without him, he averages 90 yards per game, and games with him, he averages 62 yards.
Yeah, I think Devonta Smith goes from a back-end wide receiver 1 to a kind of solid wide receiver 2 category. I think Dallas Goedert, I'd never like playing guys first week off injury. I know that it's a shoulder injury. It's not muscular. He should be fine. But that always makes me a little bit nervous. The fact you've got Cole Kmet's a top 6 option for me this week. I think it's not a case of should I play Goddard or not. I think Cole Kmet is a smash play this week. So, I'm very confident playing Cole Kmet over someone like Dallas Goedert. And then Alex is in the chat saying, do we think Justin Fields will complete 20 passes this week?
Well, he's done it 3 times this season so far. It's definitely not something I would count on. I think you're probably looking at that kind of 18 to 20 as possibly a sweet spot. But if it goes the way that we're kind of hoping it does, then yeah, you could definitely complete 20 passes.
Yeah, I've just looked on one site, and his over under is 19.5 completions. So I'd say 20 feels like the perfect number. So yeah, I'll take the over on the 19.5.